Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to The Bunker. I am so excited about today's live stream. This is a special showcase event. There has been a proliferation of new ex-Jehovah's Witness YouTubers in the COVID era, meaning from about January, February 2020 through to January, February 2021, there have been so many, not just exjw channels, but good exjw YouTube channels. And I felt it would be very interesting to have them, or a good selection of them, here on the show. The current software I'm using, StreamYard, now allows me to have 9 guests. So I thought I'm going to fill all of those slots. I'm not completely sure how it's going to work, whether we're going to break anything, but let's bring them all in. So we have Jexit. Welcome, Jexit.
Hey, how you doing?
We have XJW True Thrivers. We also have Out of Control.
Hello.
Out of Control. Which country are you joining us from?
The Netherlands.
And does the name Out of Control indicate your personality or character in any way, shape or form?
As well, yes.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. You're being open. We also have Eve 2.0 in the house. We have John Maple.
Hey, everyone.
There he is, with all of his many points and his thick stem.
Yeah.
Proudly jutting out at the bottom there. We have the Fig Leaf, aka Jill Owen. Hello, Jill.
Hi, everybody.
We have XJW Africa, Wesley. Hello, Wesley.
Hello, Leon. Happy to be here.
There he is, representing Africa and Nigeria. It's an international panel here. We have Harrison, otherwise known as The Truth Hurts. Welcome, Harrison.
Thanks, Lloyd. Lovely to be here tonight with everyone.
And we also have Cheyenne Summers. Welcome, Cheyenne.
Hi, thank you.
So again, you guys all started your channels in the COVID era, and I find that very exciting. What I've decided to do is, again, do like a special showcase where I do a tribute to each of your channels in the form of a clip. Yes, I have been through your channels and I have chosen a 1 minute, 1.5 minute clip to show my viewers as a sample of what it is you're doing. And I thought we'd go through these clips in the order of when your channels started. So John Maple is the veteran here. He started, let me see, February 6th, 2020. Before the pandemic was declared, but when COVID was very much raging through the world population. So yes, John Maple will be starting. I'll be showing a clip, and then for each of the panelists, they have 6 questions to answer in their monologue. 5 questions in 6 minutes. Get it right, Lloyd. You just can't get the stuff these days.
Thought I was missing the final question for a second.
So the 5 questions are: when did you leave the organization? What caused you to leave? Why did you decide to set up your channel? What impact, if any, did COVID have on your decision to start Activism? And what are your goals for the channel? Each panelist has received those questions in electronic form, and they will be answering them in their monologue. Again, first up, they will have 5 minutes to do so. First up is John Maple, and here is my 1 minute clip introducing John Maple's channel.
Away from all of this. Well, first, we can see how pointless and flawed criteria lists like these are. Anyone can make a list of requirements to be whatever they want, and then fill that list with things that are unique to them, or narrow enough to be applied to themselves. It's tantamount to believing somebody simply because they told you to, and nothing more. In this case, if a religion is true, it should stand up to scrutiny and be based on evidence, reason, and sound arguments, not on arbitrary self-made lists like these. And second, I'll be the first to admit that just because they didn't meet the criteria that they themselves invented, that doesn't mean that this religion isn't the true religion. This video isn't meant to be the definitive video disproving that Jehovah's Witnesses are the true religion, although I'm sure it helps. What this video does do, though, is it presents a reasonable doubt to all of their claims. This video shows that they can't even meet their own criteria, and that maybe, just maybe, their claims, teachings, and beliefs are worth challenging and scrutinizing.
Wonderful. Excellent reasoning there. So it's time, John Maple, for you to explain to the audience how you got here answering those 5 questions.
All right. So the first question, when did you leave the organization? I officially stopped congregating and left in fall of 2019. What caused you to leave? Well, if I'm going to be honest, it was extreme depression. I was already starting to get suicidal thoughts. And it actually got to the point where I had planned it. I had planned how I was going to do it. I couldn't handle the thought of just continuing to live a lie, pretty much. Continuing to live something that I didn't believe anymore. And it got down to the point where I had to make a decision. I either do what I had planned, or I stop congregating and just have to take the consequences. So, yeah, I had to leave. That was the main cause for me leaving. Sorry to bring up such a bummer so early on.
No, look, we're all about being open about mental health, so that's very helpful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So why I set up my channel was, the only reason that I could think of is just to help people. What I went through was horrible, and it took me several years of the slowest waking up process I've ever seen, and it was a terrible experience. And I went through it for the most part alone, and I don't want people to feel alone. I don't want people to feel like they have nobody, they have no support. There's information out there, there's resources out there, and I just want to be able to help provide these things to people if I can. What impact did COVID have on your decision to start activism? Actually, none, because I started before COVID, and I was actually a little upset with myself because I stopped congregating in the fall of 2019. And if only I had waited a few more months, I could have just faded away during the COVID Zoom meeting era. But in a way, it's a good thing because now my family and friends know that I'm no longer congregating. And I'm okay with that. It's going to make it easier to, fade away or whatever in the future. And then my goals for the channel, like I said, is just to help as many people as I can, help to wake people up, help to anyone that may be questioning or had any doubts. My channel is kind of like the entry level, I guess, dealing with all the basics and the fundamentals in a way that's easily digestible and just easy to understand. So yeah, that's me.
Fantastic. And since you've finished sort of with a bit of time to spare, I hope you don't mind me bringing up that we locked horns, didn't we?
We
in
did.
The distant past.
Yeah. That was I can't tell you how shocked I was when I discovered your trilogy of videos debunking my apologist video.
Sure. Those were some of the earliest videos that I did, and I think at the time, like you say, you were running an apologist channel. You've done a brilliant video with Germ, mentally diseased, where you go through the whole thing, and hopefully at some point I can get you on the channel and we can go through that ourselves. But yeah, fascinating to see that you've gone through this full transition from being a full-blown Jehovah's Witness apologist to essentially doing the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant to see.
I wanted to ask you, do you still have our correspondence via the YouTube inbox because I lost the password to that channel and I cannot for the life of me find it and log back in.
Well, if a smart young chap like you struggles, a dinosaur like me is definitely going to struggle. So unfortunately, I'm not sure how I would find that, but who knows? But yeah, thank you so much for joining the showcase, and there will be opportunities to quiz you further on in the show. Allow me to just very quickly thank some super chats that have been coming through. Thank you to Chris SY, and thank you to Kimberly Black for your super chat. It's time to go to our next YouTuber. I'm going to try and do this as seamlessly as possible and fail miserably. Okay, so next up is exjw Africa, aka Wesley.
The word, I think some people can relate to what I'm saying. It does happen. It's all about recognition. It's all about cloud chasing. It's all about being visible. Who are you? Less about spirituality. You know that Jehovah's Witnesses, that's indicative that this organization is not directed by God. God is not involved. It's a man-made religion. And everything you get there is man-made. It's nothing like Holy Spirit or you Jehovah's Witnesses being special or anything like that. You know it. I was there. I wasn't taught. Some people say in my comment section or Facebook or something, hey, you go exjw.org to really know what is going on so that you don't get confused by apostate. I'm someone coming from inside. I was born into this organization. What do you want to tell me about what is going on? You want to tell me that I do not know what I'm talking about? That is it right there.
Excellent. So, fantastic video there, Wesley. If I can just juggle things around. So, Wesley, you're up. 5 minutes. We'd like to hear... sorry, John, you're in the way. Allow me to gently move you to one side. There we go. Wesley, you're up. Hopefully you have your 5 questions in front of you. We'd love to hear what led you to your activism and what your goals are. Oh, just bear with me. Sorry, one moment. Could you repeat, Wesley?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay. The first question, when did I leave? I think the question should be, when was I disfellowshipped? I actually got this fellowship before I started to wake up. And that was sometime 2015. That was when I, started to wake up. And what caused me to leave, it was you, Leon, that actually caused me to leave. Leave, or in this case, I would say it was because of you, Leo, that I did not want to go back. Because when you're disfellowship, you know the drill, come back to Jehovah. So I haven't seen everything. What was I coming back to? That famous video of yours debunking the new light in 5 minutes. I don't know if you still remember that video. I think that was way back. I don't know when you did that video, actually, but I think it's...
Yeah. It was my second ever vlog, and
Okay.
it's interesting you should mention that video because I'm just in the process of doing an updated version. So that's really interesting.
Wow, wow. I said I wanted to tell you that the biggest, what really holds the Jehovah's Witness down is the ability of the governing body to spin the new light. You know, whatever nonsense that comes their way when you were told that, hey, new light has come up, they don't just want to process anything at all. So that video did for me, and SJW critical thinker, and watch to examination. So I was just consuming tons of YouTube videos way back 2015, and I must say I'm still waking up. That was it. That was it really. And why did I decide to set up this channel? I looked around when I was navigating through YouTube that I didn't see any African representation at all. I see YouTubers, most Americans, maybe in the UK and all that. So I was just like, what is going on? Africa is a fertile ground for these causes, and no one is talking about it here. So I just thought that I was going to do something, but I kept on procrastinating until COVID came, and a friend of mine reached out to me, and I talked to her about I had wanted to do something like this a long time ago, but now I'm home and I don't even know what the future holds right now. I would like to start off something. So one thing led to the other, and the channel just came up. The goal really for this channel is to be visible on the African continent. There's zero activism. Nothing is going on here. Nigeria is in West Africa, and you have lots of things going on. People are in the dark here. So I just feel that if me being on the continent and try to do the little I can, perhaps someday my voice can grow bigger in such a way that people begin to notice and see Jehovah's Witnesses from the videos I make around here. So I really want to be able to see if Africans can wake up and see if they would. It's difficult here in Africa. I don't know how much YouTube or Jehovah's Witnesses really consume, because you gotta have the money to be on the internet here. But I should think that the internet is coming up, and information are more penetrative now. So I hope in the near future the channel would be in a position where people can ask questions or probably reach out to me and set some kind of structure that will keep the channel going. To run the channel here is very, very difficult, like you would have in the United States or other developed countries. It's so very difficult to get videos out here because it costs a lot of money. And of course, living in a third world country, it doesn't make anything easier. So my goal is to, be visible on the continent and see how I take things off from there.
I should just mention that, Wesley. By the way, that's the 5 minutes. I have put the links to all the channels in the description below. So just in case anyone's interested in checking out any of these channels at any point, the links are below. Wesley, you did mention COVID. I think, is it safe to say that COVID did have an impact on your decision to start Activism? And also, we're interested in knowing what are your goals for the channel moving forward.
COVID was, it really did have an impact. Though, like I said before, I would have at some point in time set up a channel, but I can't say for sure if I would have been able to pull it off if not for the COVID. So I would, now that the channel is up, I would like in the future to grow my channel in such a way that the channel becomes visible on the African continent. And so much, and around the world, people watch my channel around the world as well. But I'm so desperately concerned about Africa because Africa is in a chokehold, and I really want to pull my channel in such a way that it's easily accessible and what noise I'm able to make here, I hope it reach out to these people. And in going forward, I also intend to talk about life after the Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't want to keep sounding like a broken record. I do not want to keep talking about the evil of this organization. I want to be able to share success stories of people who have left the religion and let the world see that they are not damned, still hell. And like Washington predicted, nothing bad is gonna happen to them. Leaving the organization doesn't cause bad things to happen. So I've been out about 5 years now. I would say I'm doing very okay, and nothing has happened to me. And I want people to be able to share that their story, their success story in the future on my channel when I begin to do interviews with Africans who have woken up.
Wonderful. Well, I wish you all the very best with your goals there, Wesley. I think you're right. I think that Africa is underrepresented in terms of XJW YouTube channels, and I'm very, very proud of you for making those steps. And any advice, any tips I can provide, I'll happily do so. We move on to our next YouTuber on the list. Allow me to just briefly thank some super chats. Tony Morris. Not sure what he's doing in the Netherlands at the moment, but he does get about, doesn't he? Maybe he's on a whiskey hunt. We have the Atlarkey. Don't just skip over my super chats again. Keep doing what you're doing. I recently left. Wish me luck in hopefully joining you one day. Well, all the best, you know. It's a difficult journey, isn't it? Getting out sometimes, but you can make it with persistence. Yadiel Aguilar says, thanks to all of you for the work you're doing. Lloyd's channel has helped me a lot, and it's good to see more activists doing great work. That excites me too. I'm excited to see that there are more voices being heard. I don't want, personally speaking, and I'm sure I speak for many XJW YouTubers, I don't want mine to be the only voice. Apart from anything else, it's depressing to think that if I ever stopped or had to stop for any reason, that would be it. There would be no other channels. And we all see things differently as well. We all have slightly different views on things, and we can all bring something unique to the table. So that's part of why I'm doing this live stream, because I think it's important to hear as many voices as possible. Another couple of super chats as well. Bart van der Linden Photography says, huge respect for you all. Some of you helped me a lot, and some of you are new to me, and I will check out your channel. Thanks for the awesome footage, and greetings from everyone's in the Netherlands. What's going on there? Everyone's following out of control, it seems. And Planky Mill says, great to see you guys in the same room. Keep up the fab work. You're inspirational. And I think one more from Jeannie Jewel. Thanks for all you do, Lloyd. Thank you to everyone on the panel today. I think I'm caught up there with the super chats. Thank you so much for those kind super chats, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be doing this. Now, next on our list is, and again, I'm going in date order. So we started with John Maple, who started his channel February 6, 2020. Wesley, who we've just heard from, started his channel May 19th, 2020. We now go to a channel that started July 14th, 2020. I'm talking, of course, about everyone's favourite UK channel, Jexit.
The word infallible means? It means being incapable of making a mistake. So here the governing body are saying that they make mistakes. Fair enough, no problem with that. This much is obvious. But what about the word inspired? Well, I went onto the JW website and looked up the definition of the word inspired according to their Insight on the Scriptures book, which basically it's like a dictionary of Bible terms and the names of Bible characters. So I'm just going to read to you what it says in that book under the term inspiration. Inspiration, the quality or state of being moved by or produced under the direction of a spirit from a superhuman source. When that source is Jehovah, the result is a pronouncement or writings that are truly the word of God. Basically, the governing body are saying that this definition does not apply to them. So it means that any literature that they produce, because the governing body oversees the production of all Watchtower literature, they are basically saying that the literature they produce does not come from a superhuman source. And if it doesn't come from a superhuman source, then it basically means it's not coming from God. So what does that mean then? Who are they? If they are not inspired and their writings are not coming from God, they are not the word of God, then who are they? They're just a bunch of guys who are just making it up as they go along.
Well said. So, Jexit, you're up. How did you get here? And what's your intentions?
Okay, so when did I leave the organisation? That was in April 2019. That's when I was physically left the organisation, but mentally I didn't leave the organisation until June 2020. So what caused me to leave? I was disfellowshipped basically. But then I decided not to go back after waking up and realizing that it wasn't truth. And what triggered my awakening really was meeting worldly people and getting to know worldly people who were actually not demons in human form as Watchtower makes them out to be. In particular, my girlfriend, who was like the most decent person I've ever met. And that really started making me think that what I'd been taught wasn't true. So I decided to set up my channel because I wanted to show people that leaving the organization doesn't mean the world is going to chew you up and spit you out. There is life after Watchtower. So, and I experienced that, and I wanted to share that with other people in a similar situation. Okay, so what impact, if any, did COVID have on your decision to start activism? Well, it didn't directly impact my decision to start my activism and start my channel, but it did have an indirect impact. So when COVID hit, I was absolutely terrified. I was still mentally in the organization in the first lockdown, and I had nightmares every single night. I thought this was the Great Tribulation. I thought Armageddon's coming any day now, and that's it. I'm going to be done for. But then after waking up, I realized that I don't want anyone else to go through that same situation. I was physically out, but mentally in for just over a year. But there are people who are physically out and mentally in for a lot longer than that. And I can't even bear to think what they must go through on a daily basis, especially when crisis happens in the world, and Watchtower loves to spin a crisis to their advantage. So in an indirect way, COVID had it didn't cause me to start my channel, but it gave me further incentive to keep it going. And my goals for the channel, I just want to share with as many people that message that this isn't the truth. This isn't God's one true organization. And you can live and have a full and happy and productive life outside of it. So I just want to be able to, widen my reach and share that with as many people as possible.
I'm a bit surprised, Riley, because if I read Watchtower literature, and we all know how truthful that is, I learned that apostates are interested in leading people astray after themselves. So presumably you have some kind of ulterior motive to start a following and become some sort of cult leader. Is that not the case?
No, that's not the case at all. I just want people to live happy lives outside of the organization, because the organization tells them that it's not possible. And I know for a fact that that's not true.
Sure. And one thing I really like about your channel is how, you've got a big smile on your face. You completely destroy this stereotype of, this kind of dark, sinister, menacing, embittered apostates. You bring a lot of joy and a lot of energy to your videos, and I think that comes across really well. So anyone interested, in fact, not just anyone interested, anyone, including those who aren't interested, you will be interested once you subscribe to Jexit, and the link is in the description below. BL says, love Jexit's channel. He is so outspoken. Yes, that's the reputation he has among family and friends. And yeah, someone wants to join your cult. Thrivalus Z. Seems you already have a follower. So there we go. That's one more than I have. So yeah, that's brilliant. And yeah, please do keep up the great work. It's also nice as well, from my perspective as a Brit, to see some good British channels. Although, as someone who wasn't supportive of Britain's withdrawal from the European Union, the channel name was a little bit triggering for me. But I've seen beyond that, and I enjoy the content. So please keep up the excellent work.
Thank you.
Okay, so time to just catch up with I hope you don't mind, viewers, if I just acknowledge some of these super chats, because they do help the channel tremendously. We have Heather Woods there. Thank you so much, Heather. We also had some through before. Mini Mobile Review. Thank you, Lloyd, for all your amazing work. You have no idea how much you have helped me and so many others. Love from UK. And we also have one there from Jane Spitfire. Impressive name there, Jane. My favourite plane, if I'm going to be honest, is indeed a Spitfire. Now, time to go to our next creator. We've had, obviously, Jexit just now, who started his channel July 14th, 2020. 3 months? No, sorry, the month after, the next YouTuber started up their channel. Allow me to introduce to you all exjw True Thrivers.
Convention, looking forward to hearing what the brother would say. How do I feed my faith so that I can starve my doubts? Because I had so many constant doubts. And the brother mentioned that we have to have our regular meeting attendance, be there at assemblies and conventions, study the Bible using the study aids, publications that the organization publish, and be out in the ministry regularly. And I was thinking to myself, I'm doing all of that. I'm not missing any meetings. I'm doing my best, and I am giving my energy in converting other people to become Jehovah's Witnesses. I've always felt, though, something was missing. And to be honest, we had family worship where we dedicated the night just to strengthen our faith, to the organization, to expand our brotherly love and stuff like that. But it always felt something was missing. In all honesty, as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I've always felt I was super busy theocratically. I was super engaged, but I was spiritually starving.
Beautiful. Very candid account there. So, lovely to have you with us, XJW True Thrivers. So, what's it been like for you? How did you get out of the organization? And what are your goals for the channel?
Hi, Lloyd. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really, really happy to be here. I had a little bit of a problem earlier when you did the introduction, so I could not do the shout out to everybody. So hi everybody, and
we just took it to mean that you weren't interested in everyone else and you were acting all aloof, so it's okay, that's fine.
I'm a very happy apostate. So I'm gonna make I'm gonna like tell my official name, which is Diteboho. I usually mention it in my videos. My name is Diteboho Amankwa. I am from South Africa, but I currently live in Canada. So basically, when I became an apostate, my apostasy began in Canada. And I left the organization in July of 2020. And I need to highlight that I'm also married to a very happy apostate. My husband is an apostate as well. And yes, July 2020, during the middle of the pandemic, I woke up. And the cause for my awakening was a lot of things. Just like on the clip, the clip that you've just shown, there were a lot of doubts. And when the pandemic began, I was like, I am so excited to be at home all the times because this is the time I'm gonna strengthen my faith. I've always had doubts about the governing body. Like the whole concept never ever made sense to me. So I just thought, during this pandemic, if there's anything I'm gonna get out of this, is a strong faith, brotherhood. I need to have more faith in the governing body and this lovely, godly, earthly organization. That was my intention. And my story turned out to be the irony. And so me waking up, it was a combination of a lot of things, really. But I just want to highlight a few of them. Number one being the governing body not making sense to me at all. And also the May 2019 article. I don't know if the current Jehovah's Witnesses will remember it. It was a red flag for me.
I think you asked me to have that ready. Do you still want me to show it?
Absolutely, yes.
Bear with me one moment. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work. Right, now I need to... Bear with me one moment. So I think you said paragraph 11. And let me just zoom in a little bit. So let's just see here. View. Zoom in. I'm not sure how visible it is on the screen. That's at least a little bit better. It's not quite how I would have liked. Let me just see if I can change it a little bit there. Okay, so now we're looking at paragraph 11.
That's right. So there's also a picture that is attached to that paragraph where you see an elderly, mature sister who is talking to supposedly a victim of sexual harassment in the congregation. So that article actually was, for me, it did not mean anything like Jehovah's loving counsel. It really brought a lot of tears in me. Because as someone who had experienced sexual harassment in the congregation and hearing this kind of article, I just felt like this is common sense. Is this really loving counsel from God? If it is, God is a little bit late because we were hurt, me and others that I don't know, we've been hurt by the fact that we had to narrate our stories in front of older men in the congregation. So the article basically, this paragraph was mentioning how much they could be a mature sister to be in the middle, or to sort of like to have a sister where you can narrate your story to. And I'm like, this could have been helpful in my experience. If I had a sister, maybe I could have told my story much better. So that article did not make me happy. It left a lot of doubts in me. That's why during the pandemic, I thought I needed to clear my doubts and strengthen my faith. And what also made this article to be quite hurting is to see the injustice in this. And I thought, why would God let us suffer for so long? And only in 2019, he's bring the article that maybe could have made our situations better back in the days, like 2009. So, and then also this point, I felt it's something that most event agencies actually practice today. It wasn't something any extraordinary. So these were the points that were brought in these articles did not seem to be fascinating at all, especially when it comes to a serious issue of child sex abuse or sexual harassment for adults or teenagers, like in my situation. So the second point that have always been a struggle for me is the governing body. Sorry, I'm kind of going back and forth, because I started to realize that maybe there was a little bit of a problem with the heavenly correspondence. They were delaying when it came to attacking or resolving serious issues that were affecting Christians or Jehovah's Witnesses. So I started to do research, and my research was very it was a very objective research. And that's what actually woke me up. I wanted to know more about who really is the governing body. So doing this research actually helped me, because I realized the inconsistencies that were there when defining who really is the governing body. And I told myself, these guys are either misleading themselves or they are misdirected by the one who is directing them, because it didn't really make sense one way or the other was the situation. So I began to do more external research, and it's during this this time when I came across the documentaries about the cover-up of child sex abuse. It was really devastating, and I came to realize that the article of May 2019 was probably the response to the pressure that the authorities were putting on these men. And I came to realize that these men don't act responsibly unless they feel much pressure from Satan's system. So that really woke me up, and I thought, I can't be a member, I can't be a part of this. And examining the overlapping generation was the last straw for me. I was like, there's no way. The governing body, reviewing it objectively alone sort of broke my entire belief system. And now coming to know this teaching was like, no, I can't. So I had to make a decisive action to leave the organization, because we have a young daughter who is only 8 years old. So if we stayed, the deep indoctrination was going to affect her. So I had to leave. And I would say the pandemic has had a contribution into me starting the channel right now, because I know a lot of stories of people have really helped me. So I knew out there, there's a Jehovah's Witness who is sitting on her computer trying to find answers to troubling questions, to troubling doubts. So I thought, if I do this, if I start this channel right now, I'm going to put my story out there. And if anyone relates to my story, that will be really nice. And I wanted to create a platform where others can come to my channel and share their stories. I love Maya's quote when she says, there is no greater agony than bearing the untold story. So I thought I needed to speak out so that I don't have to go to my grave with this burden, because there's just so much that you experience as a Jehovah's Witness, and most of these stories aren't told by the members, people who are still inside. So I wanted to really like also stand up as a woman. You know, if you've been, as a Jehovah's Witness woman, you've been told to sit back, shut up, and not say anything. So I kind of want to create the atmosphere that as women, as girls, we are, our thoughts matter. Hashtag every thought matters. So that's the kind of atmosphere that my channel wants to bring, and to empower others. I am from South Africa. I live in Canada. So most South Africans are really waking up, but they're afraid. So I just wanted to be out there to show the world that as hard as it is to leave that organization, you can be out and succeed out after leaving. So I would say in the channel, I just bring my thoughts maybe on some doctrinal issues or policy, but also is to bring stories out there so people will come to the channel and share their stories. And for the goals, I don't know if I still have a little bit of time.
You don't, but please proceed. It's wonderfully inspirational to see what you're doing. I think we've kind of got the gist, but if you do want to just state what your goals are, that would be lovely.
Okay, so the goals of the channel, when I came out of the organization, I was really touched by so many stories. So I wanted to add my story to those voices, but also is to help the survivors of these high controlled groups, whether it's Jehovah's Witness or any other groups. We all need help to survive. So in the channel, I hope to bring a lot of professionals, scholars, or any other stakeholders, because my goal is not to, in my understanding, the coming out of Jehovah's Witnesses is not just faith crisis. It is like a very deep. It's deeper than that. We're affected in all aspects of our lives. So I'm kind of like creating like a platform where I can bring professionals, for example, social services, and say, hey, now this problem is becoming a huge deal. People who live high controlled religions are becoming a population. What do we do with these population, with this new group of population? We need help. So I'm hoping to bring such people to the channel so that we can discuss. And the more this subject and the challenges of people living is discussed, I feel like it's just gonna create more awareness to the public at large.
Well, again, it's wonderfully inspirational to see the amazing work that you're doing. I wish there could be more people with your bravery. I especially love that the work that you're doing is survivor oriented and from that perspective. And also we'll be speaking to others from South Africa, because as we've already mentioned, you know, Africa or the African Jehovah's Witness community or ex-Jehovah's Witness community has been overlooked. So I think it's wonderful to see the work that you're doing. Please do keep it up. And if you would like to check out XJW True Thrivers, not the false ones, the true ones, the link is in the description below. Now, October 2020 was a very busy month for new ex-Jehovah's Witness YouTubers. In addition to our next featured channel, there were another two that we're going to be talking about. But let's first of all share the clip that I wanted to show you, and then we will hear from the creator herself.
Okay, scientific evidence does not support that the earth and that humankind could continue after a flood of that scale. But I was okay with the fact that God is all powerful. He can definitely make miracles happen. He can break the laws that he's put in place. He can do that. And so I was like, if he can do that, Why would he not think that it's in our best interest to preserve some irrefutable evidence for those of us in the future so that we will all know without a doubt that that flood occurred? I don't actually feel like that's too much to ask. So I started to ask questions like these, and I couldn't find satisfying answers. And when I started to ask these questions, of course, I got a lot of pushback from my parents, because as soon as you ask questions that cast any shadow of a doubt on what we've all been taught our whole lives, people start to get afraid. And that's what we're trained to do. So I can't really be mad at my parents for giving me a lot of pushback. That's just what they've been trained to do their whole life, right? As soon as you hear something that questions your faith, turn it off, close that book, walk away from that conversation, don't participate in it, stay away. That's what we've been taught.
So, very stirring words there. Obviously, I heartily agree with them. And yes, Eve 2.0, you are up. So, how did you come to get involved in this whole activism gig?
Oh, wow. Well, there's been lots of inspiration from you, that's for sure. I guess I first officially walked away and knew I wouldn't be going back in September of 2018. That was the last time I attended a meeting, and I said to myself, I won't be back. And it wasn't that I didn't believe it at that point. I just knew that I'd had enough. So basically what brought me to that point was just experiencing things that you just shouldn't expect from an organization that is supposed to be the epitome of love and that is supposed to be the true religion and the most beneficial. I just went through one thing after the next. I felt like I had been mistreated by the people in my life who were supposed to love me the most, whether it be my friends, the people I had relationships with. And I just was so disappointed by how I was treated by the people who were supposed to be better than the friends that I'd had when I was not in the truth. And I didn't appreciate how my mental health was treated. I went through a really dark time, and rather than being encouraged to get help, I was basically told that it was my fault, that if I gave Jehovah something to bless, that surely he would help me in some way, or that just made me feel like I was lacking in some way, and it was my own fault that I was miserable and all my problems were kind of brought on me by myself. And I basically felt like I was being told constantly that I didn't get to choose what was too much for me to handle, because if it was happening to me, then it must not be too much, because Jehovah promises us that we won't be tested beyond what we can bear, right? So I just didn't appreciate that. And then I guess really the straw that broke the camel's back for me was just unanswered prayers and not seeing these promises from God fulfilled. And I'm not talking about paradise promises. I mean the promises that he's supposed to be supporting us now to help us through what is apparently the most difficult time in human history. He's supposed to be supporting us, giving us what we need to make it through. And I just wasn't seeing that happen. And that for me was a huge wake up. It was the thing that caused me to take a step back and go, is anyone listening to these prayers, or am I just talking to myself here? So I felt like after I kind of started to doubt things, it took a while for me to completely lose my faith, I guess. I kind of refer to it as I lost my beliefs kicking and screaming. I truly wanted them to be true. I did not want my beliefs to be false. I did not want everything I'd done in my life and the sacrifices I made to be nothing. I wanted it to mean something. And so I held on to it as hard as I possibly could, no matter how much evidence was coming my way. It was just until one day I was like, it's not reasonable for me to be holding on to this anymore. There's just too much. I would have to be dishonest with myself at this point. And what good is that going to do if I continue to say I'm a Jehovah's Witness and no, I don't believe it? If God exists, he's going to know that, and I'm going to be toast anyways. So it kind of pushed me to the edge, and I felt like if I felt like this, so many other people must feel like this. And I felt like I had a voice while I was in the organization. I was active on the ministry school. I really liked to give talks and comment constantly. And I felt like the organization had really used that to their advantage. And in hindsight, I'm like, I guess that's not so great. So what I wanted to do was take the voice that I feel like I have and use it on the other side. Because if the organization can use it, then why can't I use it to do something good and kind of make up for the damage I did by being such a faithful Jehovah's Witness? So I thought I'll use that voice for something good, truly good, and start conversations with people and help them to feel like they're less alone. Maybe they'll find something in common with me, and maybe exchange some talking points about how we might be able to start better conversations in the future that could even just prompt someone to ask a question someday. And I mean, the pandemic had a really big impact on me starting the channel, because the realization that I came to was, hey, the organization does not have their hooks in as deeply as usual right now, because everyone's apart, can't attend Kingdom Halls, no one's watching you, and we're all bored when things are closed, and we're all on our phones, and we're all on the internet more than ever right now. And I felt like if there's a time where people are going to be Googling their questions, it's going to be now. So we need to get as much out there as possible so that people can see it when at a time when they are most likely to see it, because without this, they might not take a step back and ask that question, or have the bravery to ask a question. So COVID really pushed me to be like, this is the time. I got to get out there, even if I don't feel like my content is. I guess at this point, I have a general idea of where I'd like my channel to go. I would like to just continue to have conversations with people, develop ideas as far as how to have conversations in the future, and help people to maybe not make the mistakes that I did. Because I know for me, when I first started to wake up, I really wanted to tell my family. And the problem with that is that nobody likes to have an information overload, because then they're not listening. So I want to help people not make those mistakes and maybe approach it in a more cautious way that could potentially help in the future. And yeah, just continue to have conversations, make people feel less alone, and put a voice out there. And hopefully people will hear my voice and maybe take something from it.
Well, you're definitely already achieving those goals, and we've actually had a super chat through mentioning you. Eve 2.0, you give me hope for my daughter and son-in-law to get out of this organization. So clearly, at least someone there is inspired, and I'm sure many others will be too. I found it very interesting when you were talking about the impact of COVID. I deliberately included that question because I'm fascinated to know whether, again, the pandemic played any part. And I think you're right in saying that, you know, when you know people are going to be glued to their devices because they're spending long times at home in lockdown, there's inevitably the feeling that the gauntlet has been thrown down, and there's an opportunity there to put out content because you know that there's an audience. So it's interesting to see that the pandemic did play some part. So thank you for sharing that. And again, wonderful channel. Please do check it out. The link is below in the description. Allow me to squeeze through a few more super chats that have been coming through. Gosh, I think I've actually lost my place. But though, can I just say briefly that Mark Anthony Joyce, very much appreciate your super chat. Mark says, great to see so many other voices of reason. Thanks everyone. Most of these people are new to me. Look forward to checking them out. I hope to add my own contribution with my book soon. More power to you all. Well, good for you, Mark. Hope it all goes well with the book. And a lovely super chat there as well from Lisa Burberry. Hi, Lloyd and co. Hello to all. Lots of super chats through. Apologies if I'm struggling to keep up with them all, but it really does mean a lot. It's very helpful for the channel. Now, our next YouTuber, our next exjw creator, can't actually be with us. I did originally plan to have him on the show, and I should explain there are 9 slots. I've managed to fill them anyway, and I had 10 people that I wanted to invite, and I thought if I invite 10 surely someone's going to drop out or not be able to make it, and there was such a person. And this was the following channel, and I think there's a little bit of a clue as to why this fine gentleman couldn't make it onto the show, actually in the clip I'm about to show.
For my Crohn's disease is stress. And I'm at a point right now where the only real stress I have is the hiding that I have to do. Having feelings that in any other context would be innocuous at best, but because I grew up in a high control group, these are earth-shattering feelings that I have to suppress from my friends and family, otherwise they'll kick me out like DJ Jazzy Jeff. Yeah, I've been really sick, and I'm getting worse, actually, despite mentally feeling in a really good place, which I mentioned, and I should have mentioned this up top, but I in no way planned this or scripted it out. I love Jehovah's Witnesses. I love most of the witnesses I've ever met. There's a couple dinguses I've met over the years, but even the weird, quirky people are wonderful in their own ways, and so I always felt loved. Some people leave the organization because they realize how unloving it is. I never felt that way until now, when I realized how conditional the love is. You know, the love is real until you disagree religiously, and then the love is very much gone. But of course, from their perspective, shunning is loving.
So that was Alt Worldly, and yes, I've just seen him in the live chat, so oddly enough it seems he is with us, sort of, but he couldn't be with us in person because, for reasons that are kind of indicated there, well, this was his face reveal. He recently revealed himself on his YouTube channel. I can remember when I did that for the first time, because I started my channel back in 2012, and I was making videos and uploading them anonymously, and I didn't reveal myself in a vlog until October, November 2013, and the elders started calling only a couple of weeks later. So I know how quickly things can happen once you reveal yourself, and it seems that the sharks are already circling for Alt Worldly. He did intend to be with us today, but it's just been a bit too much in terms of the pressure he's under with his elders and with his family situation. But I did still want to include him in the show as a show of solidarity for our fellow ex-Jehovah's Witness. I think many of us on the panel, and certainly many in the live chat, will know exactly what you're going through, having been through it ourselves. And I think I speak for all of us in saying, you're not alone, brother. We're with you. We've been through this, and you've got it. And we all very much look forward to more videos from your superb channel in the future. Again, the link is in the description. Please check out his channel if you haven't done so already. Alt Worldly started his channel in October, on October 7th, 2020. And as I mentioned, Eve 2.0 also started up in October. Another channel that started up in October 2020 is, and I'm going to try and do this as seamlessly as possible, this one.
Just before I went to high school, my parents got a divorce. My father had an affair, and he really didn't want to stop that. And So it also led to the fact that he got disfellowshipped. Disfellowship means that your whole community of Jehovah's Witnesses shun you. They ignore you, literally. They just kick you out of their lives. And most of them will not even greet you. So this is what happened to my father. But it also made our whole family being sidetracked by the congregation we were in. This is not always how it goes, but in my case, this was how people dealt with it. I don't know why, but it made us feel alienated as a whole family. The divorce was temporary, but it had a huge impact on our family and really reinforced my black and white image of the world, an image that that got put in my head from when I was a child in all the meetings I would go to as one of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
So that was the channel Out of Control, and hopefully in some degree of control here with us today is said channel. So you're up.
Yes, thank you, Lloyd. Well, was confronting with the pre-COVID haircut. They're gonna open next week, so that's nice. So I officially stopped in November 2019, but I already woke up way before that. I waited a bit to make it official, to give some people the feeling that I actually really thought about it, which I of course did. And what caused me to leave was actually quite complex. When I tried to answer that question, I thought about it a lot, but it's like a puzzle, like many pieces of the puzzle that suddenly come together, like an avalanche. And I already didn't believe a lot of things, but I always rationalized them away. I was like, well, it doesn't really matter. And let me put the timer here. And when I got married in 2008, the doubts and the pieces of the puzzle started to increase because we agreed on a lot of things that were weird about the teaching and the articles, and I had somebody to talk about it in depth. And it increased and increased. And I remember in 2017 or 18, I was sitting at an assembly, and I heard this brother giving a talk, and I just said out loud, like, well, the organization and Jehovah is not the same, is it? Like, I couldn't see like why he was saying that, but I wasn't realizing that it was not him, but it was, of course, a different cause of that he was saying that. But then in 2018, my daughter was born, and then my heart opened up, and then things happened. I noticed. So I was confronted with some things that were already annoying, but now I had to think about the fact that I would tell it to my daughter as well. And then there was this watchtower, and maybe you have a picture of it.
Oh, crumbs. I was too busy following the comments. Let me first add Wesley. Wesley got disconnected, so Wesley's back with us again. And, okay, let me have a look for your watchtower article.
Yeah, so but anyway, there were pictures in the article that were really annoying me. And the first picture was about some people having a wine. I was in, I think it was in the article, study article of June 2018.
So is this the one?
Yes, exactly. And then I looked at it, and we're all familiar with those pictures. I made some Photoshop jokes on it, but in reality, it was very annoying because I always had a big problem with adapting to people with a weaker conscience. And there were always people who would make life hard. They would make up stuff, and then you just had to adapt to that because, you have to be careful with their conscience. So there was already, for my feeling, very little liberty. But with those people around and with these pictures stimulating it, there was almost no freedom left. So there was really in my allergy. And then the other picture that I've sent you, yes, this was just mind-blowing. And I will focus on one part. And it was the guys having a beer in the middle. And if you count, they're like 2 beers per person. And that's supposed to be a wrong situation, because maybe they're not witnesses. I don't know. It doesn't say. But I got the feeling like you're never doing it the right way. There is always something you're doing wrong. You will always feel guilty. And it was really getting to me. And then the next picture was in the same article. And then I saw them walking in. I was like, they're dressed nice and fresh, but that's supposed to be a bad thing. And then I realized like something is not going right here. And I called a friend that I know is watching right now. And I was complaining about these articles. And she said, well, maybe you should read Crisis of Conscience by Raymond Franz. And wow, that really released a lot of research, unleashed a lot of research. And I am grateful until this day that she said that, because it was a huge risk. So thank you. Well, and then I started researching. I read Stephen Hassan, Combating Mind Control. There's a nice picture of me giving my public talk 1 month before I woke up and realized it was all a scam. And then I saw your video on 587 607 before a normal time calculation. I don't know how to say it in English. And that was a key moment, because then the whole house of cards collapsed. And then I read a part of the Gentle Times Reconsidered, because I always have to double check and inform myself. And then I realized it was all just nonsense. And then I read a lot of other books, like I was eating that for breakfast. I read Apocalypse Delayed for getting a clear picture on the story, on Jehovah's Witnesses. And I read so many things that if you would hear them today, you would think like, these people are crazy. You would not accept this. So why do we accept things that happened 100 years ago? Only because they happened 100 years ago, but it's the same organization. So, well, it was a crazy process. And then I realized, okay, something is completely wrong. It's just not true. And I didn't want to believe. But sometimes I woke up and I thought, well, maybe I'm just wrong. I'm just imagining things. I'm going crazy. And I'm really wrong here. And then somebody told me, Ruben, start with this thought. There are 8 dudes in America who claim to be God's communication channel on earth. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm done. Nobody believes that. I would have never believed that if I didn't grow up as a witness, because that's just ridiculous. And then, I saw a lot of other videos of JW Fifth, mentally diseased, dubbed down for fun. And, that caused me to write a letter in November 2019 to be disassociated. So at first I was freshly disassociated, divorced. So I had a lot of things to take care of and to rebalance. So I was not thinking about the channel. But then a very good friend of mine that is... I won't say too much about it, but he was preemptively shunned by his parents. He was not disfellowship, but they were like, okay, you're not going to the Kingdom Hall anymore. We don't want to talk to you anymore. And that made me very sad and angry. And also when there was a lot to do in the Dutch media about child sex abuse, and the way the headquarters here responded to that and how they were very offensive in the media, it really made me angry that there was absolutely no self-reflection. And I was like, okay, now you did it. Now you made me angry. Now I'm going to let my voice be heard, because this is, I cannot tolerate this to happen without anybody speaking up. And there were many channels. There were some things in the media, but there were like people who just wanted to stop being a witness because they wanted to party, or there were very extreme, intense stories. And I, as a witness, could not relate to that. So I wanted like more stories and more balanced stories, so more people could relate. So I'm running out of time here. So COVID actually did not do a lot for me to start the channel. It gave me time maybe to reflect a bit more. And my goal for the channel is to, do more interviews, but also people from other religious organizations, but also non-religious organizations that are under high control, because the system is always the same. So I think it needs to be more awareness about that. And I want to make a series of short videos focused on like specific characteristics of high control groups, like what they do, how they do it, and why does it work. I think that can be very interesting. And then I have some other ideas about more laid-back episodes to discuss with ex-witnesses some subjects, maybe even with a drink and a laugh to have some fun. That's it.
Drinks, laughs, having fun. That's the goal of Out of Control. And world domination. I mean, I think I speak for all of us, ex-Jehovah's Witness YouTubers. That's what it's all about, world domination. But no, there were three channels all starting in October 2020, and Out of Control was one of them. And I, just curious, I'm fascinated to know why it is, again, so many all popping up at the same time. You might say it was Jehovah's hand. But our next, we have another YouTube channel, started up fairly recently, and I'm very, very excited to have her with us. So behold, you will now see a clip from the Cheyenne Summers YouTube channel.
Service in Mexico with a sister, and we go up to the store. This man was so funny. He immediately opened the door and knew who we were and immediately started hammering us with questions. You are two women representing this religion by being at my door. He said, are you even allowed as women to teach in your community or to give talks to the people in your community or have a say in doctrine or have a say in how things are handled or no? Like, how embarrassing is that? How embarrassing to tell a stranger that, yeah, you're right, like I have no rights in my religion. Like, how embarrassing to say that to someone. That was definitely a waking up moment, and I just kind of walked away, and I don't think I've ever felt as internally embarrassed as I have in that moment. Crap, like, he has a really good point. And I think the other sister was just like, whatever about it, because that's technically their place. That is their place in the religion, and you don't really question it, and that's just how things are.
Fantastic. So that was Cheyenne Summers. Cheyenne joins us. So thank you so much for joining us, Cheyenne. How did you get involved in this activism gig, and what's in it for you? What's your goals?
So much. I left in the fall of 2018, and I kind of quit cold turkey. Like, I didn't get disfellowshipped. I didn't have a meeting with the elders, even though after I left, they've been calling me constantly. And I didn't answer any of their calls. I just sent them a polite but firm text message, and that was it. And it kind of shut them up. But long story short, I had been living and serving as a missionary in Mexico, and I dislocated my knee while I was there. And so I flew home. I stayed in my room. I was bedbound for like a month. And in that period of time, I had dove back into the cycle of watching YouTube videos. I had nothing else to do. I was staying up all night, and I just had my breaking point. And I was thinking, I am, in my early 20s, I'm building the foundation for the rest of my life, and there's no point in investing any more time into this. So I kind of quit cold turkey. My dad came into my room when I started getting better, and he said, and some of you may have heard this before, but he said, you live in my house, you go to meeting. And I felt guilty. He's kind of a disappointed in you kind of dad. I had never heard that from him before. So I went that Sunday, and I never went back. And it's so weird to think about that meeting because no one there knew that it was my last meeting. I kind of knew, but of course, at that time, I was still open to the idea of going back, but I just knew that I needed a break at least. So, yeah, I don't know if COVID had a very direct impact because it's been kind of like a year now, but it definitely gave me the time I needed to process and think about what I wanted to say and what my voice in this community would be like. So, yeah. I watched you, of course, Living the Second Chance, Mark Cora, when I was like 4 years ago, years before I left. And then I just kind of went up and down with watching these videos and not really knowing what to do about it. Because I understand when a lot of people say there is no right time to leave, you just kind of have to do it. For myself, I disagree with that because in a way you have to be so strategic about it to set yourself up for success. because that is a slap in the face towards Watchtower of saying, I can be successful, I will be happy, but you do have to plan it a little bit so that you can do it in the best way you can to have that longevity in your life. But yeah, so I don't think COVID had a direct impact, but it gave me the time to kind of process what I've been through and how I wanted to say it to people eloquently. I know that it's circulated to like my family and old friends, and I know that they've seen my stuff, and so it's kind of a weird feeling. But that's why I knew it would circulate, and I knew I wanted to give myself time to say what I really wanted in the right way. And I think I did give myself that time a little bit in a few years. So, yeah. My goals for the channel are really just to focus on indoctrination and kind of the process of unlearning and how exciting it is to just evolve ourselves constantly throughout life. Like deconstruct, dissect, and really start a conversation about everything regarding marriage, sexuality, normalizing things like changing your last name. And of course, it's targeted towards witnesses and exjw's witnesses and, you know, chemo, people that are still in but want to leave. But it's also towards people of the LGBT community, Mormons, like towards so many people that grow up indoctrinated in these, you know, things that they feel are wrong, but they don't really know how to express it or how to explore it, or they want to talk to people or start a conversation of, hey, I kind of agree with you, or I kind of feel these same things too. So my goal for the channel is it to just kind of be a community of questioning thinking constantly in all areas of life.
Wonderful. And might I say, as a bit of an old timer here, it's brilliant to see the young people coming up and making their voice heard. I definitely agree with you. In fact, I think we had Lancer Choate comment, yep, got to have a strategy. What you were saying earlier, Cheyenne, about, you know, especially when you're living in a Jehovah's Witness family as a young person, you've got to be very strategic, you know, when it comes to, you know, lining up everything so that when it's the right time to leave, everything's there for you and you have your network, your safety net in place in terms of work, in terms of accommodation, in terms of, you know, friends and support network. So I think you've been very, very wise there. And I'm very glad to see you sharing your wisdom with your YouTube family, your YouTube community. If you would like to follow Cheyenne's channel and check it out, in fact, I'm not saying if you would like, I'm ordering you to check out Cheyenne Summers' YouTube channel. The link is in the description. Now, Cheyenne started her channel January 4th, 2021. So we're only talking a few weeks ago. This is all very recent. Another young person, sounds so old, another young person who has burst onto the scene recently and whose work has really impressed me is The Truth Hurts.
Criticise those taking the lead, maybe the governing body. How can you criticise these ones? Maybe they criticise details about what we've said about the end coming, or cover-ups of wrongdoing. Could go on with what they might say. They've never had any inner knowledge of the organisation. They've never served at Bethel. They've never been at the centre of the organisation to see how it really works. They've probably only been in one or two congregations, probably never even visited a branch office to see the workings. And that's the sad thing, really. They're criticising from the outside. They don't know the truth.
Maybe this elder's right. I've only ever been in 2 congregations. I've never served at Bethel. I don't know how all the internal operations are handled. So maybe I should just reel my neck in and go and sit in the corner and be quiet. I just wish there was someone who, I don't know, had graduated from Gilead and served as a missionary. Someone who had been on the writing department at Bethel. Someone who had been a governing body member for almost a decade, who could highlight the real issues at the core of this organisation and explain why he had to leave. maybe then this elder would take their words more seriously.
Ooh, I think that counts as a mic drop. So here to explain himself is Harrison, aka The Truth Hurts. Oh, hang on, Harrison. I need to turn your mic on. Sorry. Oh, crumbs.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Ah, fantastic. How are you?
Very well indeed, and delighted to have you here with us.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. I guess the first place I should start with is probably what caused me to wake up in the first place. You probably most likely recognise this book.
I do. I have three different versions of it.
I'm not surprised, you got quite the library behind you. I remember being at school and the teacher obviously taught evolution in biology. And at the time it was so convincing to me. The arguments they were using were so logical that evolution was correct. And so I came home and I told my dad, who's a Jehovah's Witness elder, and he said, you know what you need? You need to have a look at the book. You need to read this through. And so I sat in bed every night and I read it from front to back 3 times until I was 100% sure that the biblical God existed. And so I kind of took that momentum and carried it through to public talks where I talk about evidence of God in the world around us. On the ministry, I'd love debating with atheists and evolutionists. People would take me on their return visits. And I'd try and convince them that, in essence, they were wrong and I was right with my belief system. But it was only through kind of, as Proverbs 18:17 says, the first to state his case seems right until the other party comes and cross-examines him. And it was only through cross-examining my pre-existing beliefs, through the likes of Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, who I know you're a massive fan of yourself. And it was the words of, I think, Stephen Fry, who described Christopher Hitchens as a hero of the mind. And I really can't put it better than that. He really did help save my mind from mental indoctrination. I began to realize very quickly through this cross-examination that my belief system was incorrect, that my arguments for God, as good as I thought they were presumptuous and they were fallacious. And so quite quickly, as you put it, I reverted to being more atheistic in my belief system. I couldn't, in all good conscience, go on the ministry telling people about a God that I didn't believe existed. And so I took that same level of scrutiny into the Bible as a whole. Early Genesis, Adam and Eve, 6,000 years ago, Noah's Ark, global deluge, 4,300 years ago, and scientifically studied these topics. And after studying them in such great depth, if I was to actually say to other people that those were historically and scientifically true, I would be being intellectually dishonest. It would be completely wrong of me to say that. And so at that point, if someone says they want to believe in God, then that's their decision. It's unfalsifiable, but it's their decision. If someone says that they believe the Bible's the inspired word of God, well, then we can hopefully have a civilized discussion about it. But when you start saying to someone who's been serving your organization for 25 years, that if you don't keep your mouth shut and stay quiet, we're going to take away your friends, your family, your community. We're even going to take away your job. That's when we have a problem. Because we're not just dealing with a relatively harmless, religious, peaceful organization anymore. We're now dealing with a high control group. And so that's when I had my first desire to start YouTube, was when I was seeing the reaction of my friends and family to me just asking innocent questions and coming to different conclusions, being labeled as satanic. But a bit like you, I suppose, Lloyd, and alt-worldly, you both kind of started in a incognito fashion where you didn't really want to show your real identity. And around a year and a half ago, in order to keep my job in my family relations, I was just desperate to get out there on YouTube. And so I bought you're going to find this very funny, I bought a black mask like bank robbers wear.
I'm imagining like Kylo Ren or something. That's fantastic. Brilliant.
I bought coloured contact lenses. I even, I was planning the whole thing so that I could record videos and I could potentially stay faded so that I could potentially live
not
the best
look remotely intimidating as an apostate.
I'd fit right into the Jehovah's Witness imagination of what an apostate would be. But of course, I realised that my heart was in the right place, but maybe that wasn't the best avenue. I needed to be more genuine. I needed to be more sincere. I needed to put my face out there and use my real voice. And so because my dad employed me as a window cleaner, I realized that if I just were to say, you know what, I'm disassociating and I'm starting a YouTube channel, I'd be left with no money. So as much as I wanted to start this channel a year and a half ago, I had to hold back, sit tight, and gradually go around my local villages nearby me, knock on people's doors, which I'm obviously very used to doing, getting rejected a lot. But I'd ask them if they were looking for a window cleaner. And gradually I'd pick up customer after customer, up to the point where I had enough customers to be self-sustainable in my income. And so at that point, I said to my dad, I'm starting YouTube, and it didn't go down very well. It was sad to see his reaction, but you're always going to get that sort of reaction. And then from there, really, I've not looked back so far. I've only been going about a month with my channel, but the overwhelming support and positive words of such kind ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have really spurred me on to keep going. And I hope that together, all of us activists on the panel can contribute just something in helping people who, outside of their religious beliefs, are such genuinely nice, loving people. But if it wasn't for that religious indoctrination, which is the biggest problem here. So I'm sure all of us together are having some impact, and I hope that can continue.
I'm still floored at the revelation, Harrison, that you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness YouTuber window cleaner?
Yeah, well, aren't most Jehovah's Witness window cleaners?
No, I think that's fantastic. Wow, and again, I'm just so impressed at your style with the channel, and obviously you're already on like 2,000 odd subscribers, so clearly it's resonating with people. Keep up the excellent work, and as with many of you on the panel, I'm really hoping that what we're starting today with this showcase, we can kind of continue. We can kind of keep a little bit of connection going and collaborate with each other where possible. No, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that story, Harrison. A really inspiring story, and yeah, hope to hear from you and the rest of the panel on future shows. We have one more who we need to hear from. This is a friend of mine who has appeared on Watchtower in Focus before, but now she has her own YouTube channel.
1987 even says, very quickly before moving on to some sweeping and tenuously evident statements, that masturbation is not directly condemned in the Bible, and it admits no physical harm is caused. Now that would be the end of the matter, wouldn't it? You'd think so. No biblical condemnation, no physical harm, no problem, right? Wrong. It then goes on to say, does this mean masturbation is harmless? Absolutely not. That bit's in italics. Even those not especially concerned with God's viewpoint feel uneasy about the practice. For instance, Dr. Aaron Haas, in his survey of the sexual practices of 625 teenagers, reported, the majority of adolescents who masturbated reported feeling guilty, ashamed, dirty, stupid, embarrassed, or abnormal. Surely, masturbation is an unclean habit. That last bit's the paragraph, not Dr. Aaron Haas. The problem is that this shaming and making people feel disgusting and dirty for normal activities at normal levels, I would hazard a guess, is far more psychologically damaging than the act itself. It's not up to anyone, especially 8 blokes in New York, who actually admit that, if that's what you're into, the Bible doesn't even explicitly condemn masturbation, to tell you what to do.
Very well said. So, Harrison, what are you doing on the screen? Come on.
Sorry, I'll go.
I wish I could do it more smoothly. There we go. Harrison has transformed into Jill. Jill, you're up. What made you consider activism? How did you get involved? What are your goals?
Hiya, Lloyd. Thank you so much for the opportunity and bringing everybody onto the show today. So your first question is what made us wake up and why? So I was disfellowshipped in 2011 along with the man who was to become my husband. We were disfellowshipped together. We got married, we got reinstated sometime around 2016. Whenever the Twickenham International Convention was, it was just before that because we were able to attend it freely. And he's downstairs watching, I think, at the moment. He better be anyway. So hi, Richard.
Hello, Richard.
So we knew something was really fishy about the organisation at the time, but we couldn't put our finger on it. So we kind of carried on. We carried on going to the meetings locally, but we knew something was really off. And then one day I went to visit my best friend who had disassociated herself already. And I parked my car behind a big van round the corner and I put my hood over my head and I scurried over the road to see this wonderful, beautiful human being who should never be my dirty secret. And sat in her living room having my illicit cup of Earl Grey. She told me that she'd joined the UK exjw support group on Facebook, which is a fantastic resource, completely private, lots of quizzing of new entries to make sure that it's safe. So yeah, brilliant, brilliant group. And she had learnt there about the UN membership. And when she told me that after the Revelation book, 4 times, I think, in my childhood, we'd gone through the Revelation book, that they had become NGO members of the UN. It was so shocking, I kind of didn't believe her, but I did because of who it was coming from. And the scales fell and I fell down the rabbit hole and I myself joined the support group. And that's really how and why I woke up. And my husband, he has such fantastic logic processing skills that I don't think he was ever actually asleep in the first place. So he was very happy to just comply and you know, sort of felt as though I'd only just caught up with him anyway. So what's the next question? Activism. So most people who know me know I've been around in activism actually for quite a long time, ever since I woke up really, quite a passionate person. So once I get a bee in my bonnet, that's it. So I was adminning the UK Facebook support group for quite a long time, and that can become quite an intensive job with offering emotional support to people. At one point I was getting phone calls at kind of 3, 4 in the morning from people who were having a bit of a crisis and dealing with that, as many of the admin in that group actually do. So I've been around in activism for quite a while, had a bit of fire in my belly, because when you read day after day these awful stories of people being treated so incredibly poorly, you can't help but want to do something to help. And one of the reasons that I've already come onto Lloyd's channel before on Watchtower in Focus was working with some others to try and persuade the UK inquiry into child sex abuse to release the secret database. So I've done quite a bit there. And in terms of COVID, I don't think it was really COVID that made the difference for me. It was finishing my BSc back in September. It actually gave me some mental space to think and to, I'm never without a project. So I immediately thought of something else I needed to do. And within my activism work and support work, I'd noticed that sex and relationships were something that came up all the time. It was a really, really big topic among XJWs, struggling with the shame of what they've been taught, being ashamed of who they are and themselves. I want to talk about LGBTQ issues and gender roles and so many things to do with sex that I don't think that we talk about as openly as potentially we could do. It's all kind of going on in pockets, but I don't see the conversation so often coming together in the public focus. So that's what I wanted to do. And in terms of goals, I think my goals are very modest. If I can just help one person, if one person watches my video and says, I was feeling really bad about that and thank you, that's made me feel better, that reasoning has made me feel better, then I've achieved everything I could hope to achieve. But a bit of a side goal as well, something I'd love to be a part of, is encouraging more female voices. It's amazing to see such wonderful other female activists on the panel today. We don't have to have our silly little two-way conversation on the platform, so we don't dare teach anybody anymore. If anybody watches my video, I seem to have accidentally stumbled across that format somehow, but we don't have to do it like that anymore. We don't have to risk a child telling us what to do in the field ministry group because they happen to be baptized. We have a voice and we can use it, and I would like to encourage more women to speak out as well. And I think that's it for goals, really. Helping one person, and it's all been worth it. But I think I will have to say that this might be a short-term project, because I've started a master's degree and it really kicks off in May time. So I'm going to try and churn out everything I can before then, because I might have to get my head down with other things after that.
Fantastic. Well, Jill, I think that the work that you're doing and have done is inspirational. Your dedication when it comes to activism is fantastic. You know, we've worked together on the Get the Data project, as you mentioned. I'm really inspired by the fact that you're chasing your dreams in terms of bettering yourself through education. You've been on the Watchtower in Focus panel as someone far more educated than me or the rest of the panel, and it's really inspiring to see ex-Jehovah's Witnesses fulfilling their potential in that way. So please keep up the excellent work. Again, if you want to subscribe to Jill's channel, it's called The Fig Leaf, and so the link is in the description. What's the inspiration behind The Fig Leaf?
It's the first sexual shaming, having to wear something after the Garden of Eden.
Okay. I thought it was just a reference to one's wardrobe. I mean, I keep a fig leaf for that purpose. But anyway, moving swiftly on. So that's it. We've run through our showcase now. And what I wanted to do was just open up the panel. If anyone on the panel has a question for someone else on the panel, feel free to fire away, and I will interject occasionally with questions from the live chat. How does that sound? So who has a question and for whom?
Oh, I sure do have a question for exjw Africa, yes.
For Wesley.
So, Wesley, right. So my question is, how is, I did make a post on my Facebook the other time telling everybody that I wasn't a Jehovah's Witness anymore, because 98% of my Facebook friends were Jehovah's Witnesses. So I had to let them know so that whoever wants to go. And I realized I got a lot of comments from Nigeria, and a lot of Nigerians are really waking up. So my question is, are there any support groups out there? Is there anything that you're willing to do to support those who are waking up, especially in the African context where family is, like families are super family oriented, and it can be so hard to wake up when your entire life is hooked to your family. So is there anything going on there, or what are you planning to do?
I think he might be muted. You need to, Wesley. It's telling me that you need to connect your microphone. So you might need to mess around with your cables or something, or just check your settings at your end. Bear with us, viewers. Obviously, with live streaming, you just never know what's going to happen. Keeps you guessing.
So I don't know if he heard my question.
Wesley, are you with us? Well, you're obviously with us. But with us and not with us. Maybe, Wesley, what I would suggest is, because again, it's telling me at this end that your mic isn't connected, maybe if you go back and come back on, and we'll get you back on, and maybe that will work, and then we can re-ask the question. So I suggest you log off and then come back on again. So in the meantime, while Wesley does that, and we will come back to that question, does anyone else have a question for anyone else on the panel?
I have a question for Out of Control. I just thought, what's your first name, by the way, or do you not want to reveal it?
Oh, yeah, of course, yes. Ruben.
Ruben. Lovely to meet you in person. So my question for you is, as you know so much about cults, you read the book Combating Cult Mind Control by Stephen Hassan, like I did. Great book. It's amazing how many of the boxes that Jehovah's Witnesses tick. Have you ever thought about going into cult exit therapy and becoming a counselor yourself?
It's a very good question. I'm actually reading a book now by Bonnie Zeman on I think I got it recommended by the Mr. Leaf there, but about cults in therapy, and it's actually super interesting. I'm halfway, so it's very recommendable. I don't know. At first, I think maybe this year I want to go into therapy myself, just to see if I have any blind spots left. Because I learned one thing when I read the book by Stephen Hassan, that I didn't see things that were extremely obvious. So at first I got very disappointed in myself, of course. But then you realize this is a very normal thing. Happens to many people that are very intelligent. So first I want to do that myself, and then I'll see. But a good friend of me actually wants to do this, and he wants to do the therapy and wants to focus on that. So I don't know if I'm the type for that, but it's tempting.
Yeah, I definitely think you may have the personality for it. I looked into it last year. The problem is in England, there's not much of a desire for it. I spoke to a few counsellors and therapists, and no one really seemed to know what exit therapy was. I think it might be more of an American thing. Lloyd, what do you know about the topic?
Yeah, it's not as advanced and developed as you would like it to be. What I take from what Bonnie Zeman has said is that there certainly could be more awareness in the counselling and therapy community when it comes to the specifics of being in a cult. And it's sad sometimes that there isn't that much awareness of the cult dynamic and of mind control and that kind of thing. But any decent therapist or any decent counsellor will understand the needs surrounding loss and anxiety, and the basic struggles that you go through when you're exiting a traumatic situation. So even if they don't know the specifics of how cults operate and what they do to people, a good therapist is still going to understand the nature of trauma and the nature of loss, and they're going to have some methods to help people through it. But I do admire those who are able to commit. It's years, isn't it, when it comes to going through the training for being a professional counselor or therapist. I do admire people who are willing to go through that.
I wanted to add one little thing, is that I interviewed a girl for my channel. Her name is Nick, and she studies psychology and also with a specialization in religious trauma syndrome. So it's like a relatively new thing, if I remember correctly. So and what Lois says is very true, that it's connected also to PTSS, because it's just a trauma, not just a trauma, but it's a trauma. So.
Indeed, we're rejoined by XJW Africa. So Wesley, are you coming through loud and clear now?
Hello, Leo.
Would you like to have the question repeated?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So my
hello,
Leo.
Leo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Wesley, we're just going to repeat the question.
Yes. So my question was.
Yeah, I got a question the other time. I just wanted to know. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can repeat the question, but I got your question the first time. I just wanted to know if
I think
you all can hear me.
Probably for the benefit of viewers, it's good to repeat the question.
Okay, so I wanted to ask
Excellent.
you. Yes, I do get a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses Nigerians contacting me on Facebook, and the concern is that they are so scared of leaving the organization because they're going to lose everybody, they're going to lose everything. So my question is, are there any support groups out there in Nigeria? Or if not, what are you planning to do? Like, is there anything that you are thinking of doing that you can support those who are totally awakened but still in the organization?
Excellent question. There is no support at the moment, and it's a real situation here in Nigeria because when you wake up, that's how it works. In Nigeria, Nigerians are so family oriented. You're so integrated to your family. In the event that you lose your family, it's gonna be very, very difficult for you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have a working in Nigeria and everything is tied to your family, you're in a lot of trouble because your finances and everything, it could be tied to your family. That's how the system works in Nigeria. So if you pull out and you want to be on your own, it's a scary situation. You don't want to be in this organization anymore, but you can't leave. You have to have that financial capability to be able to stand up tall and say, I'm leaving. Lots of young Nigerians that have left, and they're struggling right now. I see a number of them on Facebook, being thrown out of their house. They don't have a job. I had advised one the other time that you'll stay in school. Whatever doubts you have right now, you've got to just shut up, get an education, get out, try and have some stability before you start crying wolf and court throw you out. There is no support here. There is no, the government we have here is not like that advanced country, so you wouldn't have any support when they throw you out. So this is the kind of situation. I'm a bit lucky that I had before COVID a bit of financial thing going on for me. I was able to own a house, and it's not like that for everybody. So if I didn't have a bit of stability, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now, because it takes a whole lot. You have to have something going before you want to step out to do activism. So what I personally am thinking of in the future is I'm trying to see if I could set up a foundation where people who leave this organization can come and have interaction, and if something goes very well for me, I could have a place like an accommodation set up for people. They can stay in there temporarily before they get their feet. It's a very big thing to do, and I'm going to be needing some kind of support. But on my own, I would love to have a structure that can receive people who leave the organization, and to be able to want to speak up, or to be able to want to venture out of the organization. There is no support on ground right now, and I'm just hoping that in the near future, with the help of people and support here and there, we can set up something for them. I don't know how that will go right now, but it's a real situation in Nigeria, and not only Nigeria, in most African countries. And
I think I think we've hit on an interesting point here about
I just
the need for some
wish that
kind of
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying we've hit on an interesting point here about the need for some kind of foundation that can help people exiting a group. My issue with this idea has always been
some kind of structure.
My issue has always been the number of people leaving makes it difficult to imagine, you know, where that kind of funding would come from. I mean, we're talking about an organization with millions of followers. Realistically, on a yearly basis, thousands of people will be, you know, one way or the other making their way out. It would be a logistical, I would imagine, a logistical nightmare, not to mention a financial nightmare, to give meaningful support. But one thing that I am very keen on doing at some point, or figuring out a way of doing it, would be at least some kind of shelter arrangement, whereby if you have like some kind of property, you know how like on Airbnb when people have like some property or some like a spare apartment or something, if we could kind of have like an international network of safe houses, so that people who are in a vulnerable situation, maybe they're very young and they don't have finances and they need to get out from a like a toxic situation, or maybe it's an abused spouse. It would be nice at some point to have some kind of arrangement where people who are in very urgent situations have like an escape route. I don't know whether that's something we could figure out at some point in the future.
I think a few groups have looked into that. Telltale Atheist, a different YouTuber, he's looked into the possibility of that. I don't know where he's got to. Also, Faith to Faithless is a UK-based charity that helps apostates leave all kinds of organisations, not just the witnesses. I think there's a few maybe to tie in with there as well.
Indeed.
Yeah. Can I just ask a question of everybody?
Sure.
I wonder if a show of hands might be the easiest way to do this. I was wondering whether you have an idea of your audience. So I'm thinking maybe the 3 key groups would be waking up active Jehovah's Witnesses, supporting people as they leave, or talking to people who have no knowledge or little knowledge of witnesses and trying to educate people about that. So does anybody have active witnesses as their audience that they're trying to wake up?
Yes, I do have.
Me as well. You can't see my hand, but it's up there.
Is anybody primarily looking at people who've already woken up but need a bit of finding their feet afterwards? And is anybody trying to educate people who were never witnesses about the organisation? Cool, thank you. That was my question.
All of the above, yeah. It's interesting when I look at the comments, I'm routinely reminded of the fact that there are believing witnesses, you know, to at least some degree finding their way onto my channel, because they obviously on occasion will troll my videos and they'll make me feel their wrath because I've pointed something out that makes them feel awkward. But I have actually also done surveys of this channel, and the results from those surveys indicate that quite a large percentage of the viewership have no connection with Jehovah's Witnesses. They just love a good train wreck. So quite frankly, a lot of my viewers are just sadistic and like seeing a batshit crazy cult doing its thing, to be quite honest with you.
I have a question for Jexit. Riley, you said something that really resonated with me, and that was that you were surprised by how people who were worldly were just not what the organization said that they were, that they weren't monsters who were out to exploit you in any way they can. And I just wondered, you know, besides being surprised by people, was there anything else that you found to be not quite what the organization said it would be when you were on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, we've all heard the expression that the world will chew you up and spit you out, and that just wasn't my experience at all. I mean, not to say that life has been smooth and easy since, you know, I left, far from it. But that's just life. That's not anything inherently about leaving the organization. I mean, that's just life. I mean, people in the organization have good times and bad times. People outside of the organization have good times and bad times. It's just time and unforeseen occurrence. So all this this doom and gloom that they preach that will happen to you when you leave, it's just not the case. It's not the case at all.
Always appreciate when the panel know their Bible. I've got a very Bible literate panel assembled here today.
I have a question for Truth.
I got a question, Lord.
Sorry, who has a question? We'll come to you in a moment. Do you have a question, Wesley? I think there's a delay.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question.
Sure thing. I'll take that question, and then I think someone has a question for Truth Hurt. So fire away, Wesley.
Okay, the question will go for you and my other friends. I don't know the name. I think the one that just spoke, who talked about evolution and what caused them to wake up. He seemed to he started off talking about non-belief in God and the belief in God not being logical. And that's what started him on his way to waking up. The question I want to ask, it seems to be your kind of person. Is it a good thing to start off to talk about atheism when you are confronted with new Jehovah's Witnesses that are just waking up? Is it a good thing to want to let them, to that path? Because I remembered when I realized that you were agnostic, and Paul Grundy of JWFast.com, when I realized that you guys were agnostic, that sent me into depression. And I just didn't want to lose the idea of the life after. And now, as brilliant as you guys are, you probably have concluded there is no God. Jehovah's Witnesses that are just coming out, I don't think they would want to have that thrown at them. Would they want to digest the fact that there is a possibility that there might not be God somewhere? I'm just curious, like in your channel, especially my other friend here, I don't know the name. How do you go about talking to Jehovah's Witnesses? You try to let them know right from the start that the possibility of the existence of God is zero? I'm just curious.
Well, I didn't really arrange the panel to do a debate on atheism versus theism, and I'll let Harrison answer because it seems to be directed to both me and Harrison. All I would say is, you say, is it good to be throwing this stuff? I'm not throwing anything at anyone. People have to click on my channel to watch my videos. It's the same thing with your channel, XJW Africa. You could argue that your material is offensive or upsetting to believing Jehovah's Witnesses when they go on your channel and they see you criticizing it. Well, okay, fair enough, but you have to make the choice to click on the channel. I'm not forcing anyone to click on the channel. And I think one of the valuable things about having so many voices on YouTube, including theist ex-Jehovah's Witness channels, of which there are many, is that there's something for everyone. And I've always said on my channel that I'm happy for people to watch my content, and many do watch my content, by the way, while having a belief in God. You may not see it yourself, but I see it on a daily basis, people commenting who who maintain a faith in God while watching my videos, because it turns out that some people who believe in God, including ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who believe in God, like to be challenged by the other side and like to hear what people like myself have to say. So I don't throw anything in anyone's face. People have to come to me, and if they want to hear what my views are, I'm going to speak them. I can only speak my views. I can't speak yours, or I can't speak anyone else's. But I do know that, having spent decades in a group that tells me that I'm not allowed to share my opinion or share my honest opinion if it differs from a given authority, I'm certainly not going to start censoring myself now. And I guess that's my take on it. Harrison, how would you answer that?
It's a good point that's raised, but essentially we have to be honest with ourselves. People want to see honesty, people want to see genuineness. And if I was to come across and say, you know what, just because I want more subscribers or whatever from people who want someone who believes in God, I believe in God, I believe the Bible's the inspired word of God, that's not genuine, that's not me being sincere at all. My second video was, are Jehovah's Witnesses the one true religion? And I did a checklist of ways in which Jehovah's Witnesses contradict Bible verses. Nowhere in that video did I state I was an atheist. And yet I had many comments from people saying, do you still believe in God? What religion are you a part of? I didn't want to involve my atheism in that video because that video was targeted at Jehovah's Witnesses who maybe aren't ready for that yet. They've clicked the title, are Jehovah's Witnesses the one true religion? Because they want to know if Jehovah's Witnesses are the one true religion. Lloyd, your video the other day about Richard Dawkins, people who are interested in that will click that. I love that video. You go to a buffet, you pick what appeals to you. And there are so many of us here. Some of us will believe in God. Some of us won't believe in God. So what? Well, we all have different opinions and we're going to appeal to different audiences. And so I suppose that's the best way I could answer that for you, Lloyd.
So hopefully that answers your question. Are there any other, because we've been actually going now for over 2 hours and amazingly none of you have passed out from exhaustion. Are there any other questions? I'm anxious to bring in anyone that hasn't spoken much yet. Does
I did have a question for True Thrivers, but I think we've lost her.
Yes.
I kind of had a question, I guess, for the whole group going on the same topic. I know that when people finally wake up and leave, their faith can go in so many directions. So where are you guys at? Like, I'd consider myself agnostic, maybe leaning a little bit towards theism or at the very least deism. But what about the rest of you guys?
I really think that this depends on what question you start on. At the start of my journey, I categorized it into 3 questions. Does the biblical God exist? Is the Bible the inspired word of that God? And are Jehovah's Witnesses the one true religion? I found from my comment section that a lot of people who leave the organization, John, are people who maybe have debunked the 3rd question, so they realize that Jehovah's Witnesses aren't the one true religion, but then maybe they've not explored the other 2 questions as much. And so maybe in that situation, we have to be honest and ask ourselves, what is the way to finding truth? It's through looking at both sides of the story and then come into a logical, accurate conclusion that we believe to be based on evidence and rationality. And so, as I said earlier, the topic of God's existence, read what Christian apologists have to say about it. William Lane Craig, Frank Turek. Take a book from Christopher Hitchens, take a book from Richard Dawkins, and analyze them and see which one is making the most sense to you.
I really like how I hear that you thought, like, you said intellectual honesty before, and I also heard Lloyd say it a while ago, and I really think that's the key. Like, okay, challenge the question, like take the challenge, the questions, challenge them, and research. I remember a conversation I had with a very intelligent, witness actually. And he said, well, I'm not religious, but I have faith. And then I realized, okay, you're not being intellectual honest now, because you have no answer. You just put that out there. I think this is the important part about researching what you believe or not. I, by the way, am agnostic, because I don't think anybody can say yes or no. It's like a lawyer, and somebody has to prove if it's true or not. It depends on which side you're on that has to prove it. But I'm just leaving it out there.
And I agree.
think
I'm
the
getting more
journey can
comfortable.
be. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say I'm getting more comfortable saying, you know, I don't know. I'm becoming more comfortable saying that.
And that's perfect. I think that's a very healthy thing to do, actually. But everybody is free in also saying what they would like. If you want to be more firm about it because you think that is important, then that's also okay.
I think the journey can be quite quick for some people who leave the organisation because the witnesses already try to debunk every other religion going. They have the Mankind for God book, and you spend a lot of time going around on the ministry telling everybody else that their faith is wrong. So you've already educated yourself, rightly or wrongly, to tell everybody else that their beliefs are wrong. So when you find out that the one true religion is actually false, I think it can be a really quick journey to agnosticism or atheism. So I think probably it is disproportionately on the atheist side. That does include me. But I do have, you know, full respect for people who have managed to find a different way through that short window of opportunity after leaving to find a different kind of faith.
Speaking for myself, I think that I went through a phase. Well, first of all, I went through agnostic, and then I wound up at agnostic atheist, which is my position now. And I went through a stage when I was far more, shall we say, vehement with my atheism, and feeling as though almost every other video needed to be about my atheism. And I'm just not at that space anymore. I feel like I've got that off my chest. It's there in my back catalogue if anyone wants to watch those videos. And now and then, if the topic arises organically, like Harrison, you mentioned the Richard Dawkins video, I'll express my views openly. But for the most part, I feel it's sufficient to comment on what's going on just with the religion from an atheist perspective, because they furnish us with no end of nonsense to comment on. And perhaps as we wrap up, it's worth just saying to you all, as new YouTubers, let's give them hell, because they are giving us this avalanche of toxic, manipulative, coercive propaganda to the point where even they can't keep up. They're having to schedule Ramapo and build new studios and ramp up their production output. So, you know, they are giving us no shortage of material to work with. And I'm genuinely excited to see what this group of exjw content creators does with that, and how we use Watchtower's own words. The expression I heard when I first started out on my activism, which is actually coming up on 10 years, someone once said to me on a forum, hang them with their own words. And that's what I'm all about. That's what I see so many of you doing on your channels. You take what they're saying. We can now screen grab Watchtower Online Library and show our viewers, look at what they're saying. We're not making this up. We're not liars like they're painting us. This is literally what they're printing in their publications, or this is literally what they're saying on JW Broadcasting. So take that, use it, and I'm sure we will collectively wake up many. But I really want to thank this amazing panel for a superb live stream. Thanks to all of you who've been commenting away in the live chat. Thanks also to those of you who've been sending through super chats. Sorry if I've struggled to keep up with everything, but I hope you have enjoyed today's show. And panel, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Thank you.
Lloyd. It's been a pleasure.
So hopefully we'll do this again or
Thank
something
you
like it
very
soon.
much,
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for having
Wesley.
me.
Lovely to have Nigeria represented, and indeed the Netherlands and Canada, the United Kingdom.
Well, appreciate that.
Thank you. And yeah, hopefully we'll do something similar
Thank
again
you.
soon. I certainly hope to have many of you back on the channel again. But viewers, that's all I have for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more such videos. And as always, thank you for watching.